Begin transmission. This is a message from the anonymous charity also known as The Collective. Today's broadcast date is January 3rd, 2019. As we prepare for the ABC documentary on John F. Kennedy Jr., just hours away from now, we are going to give you some facts that will make your viewing of it more meaningful. As we all know, John could have written his own political ticket, yet he went into publishing. Many expected him to land in politics and most likely were a bit perplexed when he decided to publish a magazine instead. Some thought he was afraid to go into politics because of the so-called Kennedy curse. However, nothing could be further from the truth. What he did proved to be more dangerous than any political arena, and he knew that from the start. But JFK Jr. had a mission, and that mission was to expose the villain who orchestrated that dastardly act upon his father. Unbeknownst to the public, John was digging deep for proof. And how else could he expose the truth when all the media outlets were controlled by the very cabal he planned to expose? Enter George. When he presented his magazine, George, to the world, he was, for all practical purposes, signing his own death warrant. He knew this. But he accepted the possibility that his life could be taken. George was a veiled threat in a symbolic sort of way. Do you see? How many men named George comes to mind at just the thought of President John F. Kennedy's so-called assassination? The cabal wanted his father dead, that is a fact, but the namesake of John F. Kennedy Jr.'s magazine, their minion, arranged it. And once he had the proof, the truth would come out in his very own magazine. Do you see? As president, John F. Kennedy understood the predatory nature of private central banking. He understood why Andrew fought so hard to end the Second Bank of the United States. So Kennedy wrote and signed Executive Order 11,110, which ordered the U.S. Treasury to issue a new public currency, the United States note. Kennedy was working with President Sukarno of Indonesia, who was at that time the signatory for the global collateral accounts, which were intended to be used for humanitarian purposes but which were subverted at the time of the Bretton Woods Agreement at the end of World War II. The intention of Kennedy and Sukarno was to end the reign of the globalist privately owned central banking system, which is the main reason that Kennedy was killed, and for his part Sukarno remained under house arrest for the rest of his life. We, the collective, can now confirm that JFK Jr. had obtained the proof he needed and an expose was in the works, until his untimely, and mostly suspicious death. Of course, the media campaigned that he was an irresponsible thrill-seeker, but then they wouldn't they? Although many people knew JFK Jr. was murdered, and they were right about who was responsible, they were just wrong about the reasons. John Jr. was warned by family members about the risks involved in his pursuit. But he was determined to get justice for his father and bring truth to light, exposing the darkness that shrouds our planet. So ask yourself, what would you do, if you were a mere babe when your father, who just happened to be the most important man in the country, was murdered in such a gruesome manner, and you never had the opportunity to know him? Would you just let it go? Would you make it your life's mission to expose those responsible? Although he was from one of the main Illuminati family bloodlines, JFK was in fact trying to undo some of the mess and to bring an end to the reserve banking system. For his efforts he was assassinated on November 22, 1963. We, the anonymous charity known as The Collective, now know that it was the elite power structure running the US government that were responsible for the assassination of JFK, and that there was more than one reason for them doing so. We have seen the photographs that show George H.W. Bush was a Dealey Plaza on the day of the killing, and we now know conclusively that George H.W. Bush was tried by a military court and found guilty of multiple acts of treason against the United States of America. Being found guilty, the enemy combatant was executed by lethal injection on September 30, 2018. His state-funded memorial and funeral was held on D5. As you watched the ABC documentary, Ask the question, why now? In a few days from now, POTUS will make an announcement via Twitter regarding the rest of the enemy combatants, and their names and crimes will become a matter of public record. The offshore barges at Guantanamo will soon be at full capacity. Order will be restored in the coming months. Now take this in, many deep state are civilians who aided and abetted enemies. But we are in a state of war, as declared by GWB after the 9/11 events. This makes them enemy combatants. We are now in the process of running thousands of military trials as recommended by the DOJ and made possible by the amended Executive Order 13,223 now in effect. Already approved by the Supreme Court. Fast trials, death penalties. Hillary Clinton, Dianne Feinstein, John Brennan, James Clapper and friends, are you listening to this? So as we charge fearlessly into 2019, we now know who to trust, who is fighting for our union and who is trying to oppose it. The 190 years of Democrat subversion, corruption and division ends now. This has been a message from the anonymous charity known as The Collective. Today's broadcast date is January 3rd, 2019. End of transmission.